Inravio.com.
I believe we have Tyler Williams with us here. Are we good with him? Are we ready? We're going to talk with Tyler. I think he's they're connecting him through to me right now. All right, Tyler, how you doing?
Good. How's it going?
All right, welcome to the 505 on Racing Show.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Tyler, I understand that you're a multi-talented guy. Now, you've raced sprint cars in the local, and you've sponsored Lucas Oil, K&N Filters, a sprint car owned by Corey Kruseman. Did I say that right?
Corey Kruseman, absolutely.
All right, now, where did you race? Some of the tracks that you raced.
Yeah, so I grew up racing late models in Georgia. So I've run Lanier National Speedway, Gresham Motorsports Park, Fort Hill Motor Speedway, and to really cut my teeth on asphalt is my background. And then I took about almost a decade off of racing and jumped into some dirt with Corey out in Southern California.
Now, race car driver, I raced in the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series for a little while back, way back, and you have a book out. It's I Have a Voice. Tell us a little bit about
Absolutely. That. Yeah, so I Have a Voice came about. I was 27 years old at the time, and I'd just gone through a breakup. I'd raced NASCAR previously through college, and life just wasn't ending up how I thought it would. And I had this realization that I wasn't living to my fullest potential, and I wasn't using my voice in the world in a way that was meaningful to me. And so I didn't feel like I was making the biggest impact. And then I started tracing back to my roots as a performer as a kid and realized I'd shut down a whole side of my life of being able to perform and connect and engage with people in a way that was meaningful to me. And so I Have a Voice is that journey of rediscovering my voice as a singer, but really it's about the bigger questions of life. Who am I? You know, why am I here? What am I supposed to do in the world? And when things don't work out and dreams fall through, plans seem to crash into the walls, so to speak, you carve a new path, and it all comes back to how you use your voice. So the book is for people who are struggling with their voice and trying to find a way out.
You know, I fully could relate to that. I wrote a book. I wrote two books, but I wrote a book in 2010 called The View from the Ramp. I fictionalized a story about a NASCAR official on the ramp of a local racetrack officiating a race and how that experience affected his life. And like you said, you know, I Have a Voice. Man, that could have fit my title of my book. And I'll tell you what, you know, people don't understand what goes on inside a human being. And, you know, you being a country music singer, you know, you could express yourself through your songs, but nobody really understands the meaning of the words. And then you put those words into a book form, and it's like a, wow, hitting the head. Did you get that same feeling that's what's going on?
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the response with people's experiences, and you wonder sometimes if you're alone and what you're feeling or going through in life. And again, it doesn't have to be something drastic and major, but then you talk to people and you realize that everyone's going through something, and they read the book and they share how meaningful it's been for them, whether it's, you know, a super big experience that's really changed someone's life, or just that little encouragement that someone needed to get out and be willing to share their voice.
Right. Now, your racing career, is it on hold? Are you still playing a little bit? What's going on with racing?
Well, we raced all throughout college, and it got to the point we tested a NASCAR E-Series car at Hickory, and it looks like we were going to be going to E-Series racing. Well, I wasn't able to bring sponsorship to the table. You know, you're looking at $750,000, $1 million sponsorships, and I just didn't know how to sell at that age. And so it took about 9 years off, and this year we've gone back racing with Corey Kruseman, and he's had longtime partners with Lucas Oil and K&N Filters that allow him to provide great equipment and bring the cost down for us as racers. And so I've been racing with Corey. We're 5 races into the season, and we're looking to hopefully finish out the rest of the year in the VRA sprint cars down at Ventura Raceway, and we'll run some USAC West Coast as well throughout the season.
Now, you know, and I'm going to say this, you're not the atypical race car driver. I'm looking at your stuff the other day. I'm going through, I'm like, this guy's like a Renaissance man. You're a motivational speaker, you're a country musician, and you wrote a book. and you're racing, and how do you juggle the time? How do you make it all fit?
Well, it fits for me in the sense that I look back as a kid and making that dream, that claim that I wanted to be an entertainer. And whether it's racing cars on the track, putting on the greatest show we can for the fans, interacting with them in the pits after the race, whether it's on stage, singing to fans as well, putting on a show. It's all about giving people that moment of freedom to just have a fun night that's stress-free and connect with them in a way that's meaningful. And juggling, part of it's just having a great team. Corey Cruiser Motorsports is an amazing team, and they allow me to show up and really focus on racing the car. And then back home here in Atlanta, I have a great team as well that help, whether it's getting my media and visual media stuff going, or getting PR, my team up in the Northeast, connecting and getting the word out about the book. I Have a Voice, my EP, Believe Again, and just having great people around that support the mission that I'm on. And ultimately, no matter what I do, whether it's singing country music, racing cars, speaking to corporate groups or colleges, universities, the core mission for me is to help activate the voices and ideas of people and organizations. And when we do that, when I'm allowed to go out and share that with people, it's all about encouraging them to live their voice fully. And when they do that, it engages their personal life in a way that they show up for their friends and their family at a bigger level, and they show up at work excited and engaged, and it's more productivity, more engagement, more life, and it's just a lot more fun.
And you hit the nail right in the head, and it's got to be fun. And I'll tell you, I learned the hard way that, if you're doing things that are fun, it's not work, it's fun. And it took me a lot of years to know. I'm 58 years old, and it took me a long time to learn that. And sometimes you take things a little bit too serious, and you have to look at it as fun, and it should all fall into place. Whether you're racing a car, writing a book, playing music. I was a drummer. I played top 40 music for years, up until about 20 years ago. And people used to say, why don't you focus on one thing? And I said, no, I'm having fun. And from the sounds of it, you are having fun. And you're not focused on one single dimension here. You're doing what's making you feel good. Share that.
Without a doubt. And like I said, it all falls under the umbrella of entertainment to me. So my brain is able to handle the process of going through and switching. Friday night I was in Macon, Georgia, doing a TV performance, and then I flew out to Los Angeles Saturday morning. We raced in Ventura Saturday night. I flew home Sunday, got home late, and then we had another TV performance today in South Georgia. And it works for me. It's not such a transition to go out and do those things, because it's just part of my nature to connect and engage with people and put on the best show that I can.
Mm-hmm. And I, it's funny. I worked in Atlanta back in the mid-'90s, and I was also racing, and I was flying back to Long Island just to go racing, and then flying back to work on Sunday. And people used to say, why do you do that? I said, because I love it. Well, there's red tracks there you can race it. Yeah, but Long Island, that was my home track. That's what my family and friends was. And, it's funny the parallels that I'm seeing here just talking to you, You don't realize that when you read a bio, but just listen to you talk. You're a motivational guy, man. I'll tell you, it's all working for you. Now, if you had life to do all over, if they flipped a switch and said, Tyler, you could go back to this point, do different. What would you do different, if anything?
The number one thing I would do is take more risk, and not crazy daredevil risk, but just putting myself out there more. When I look at that one bad performance, previous years I performed in front of 4,000 people, no problem. And then one bad performance in a house party with maybe a dozen people was what shut my voice down. And instead of getting back up and going and riding again and believing that I have what it takes, I shut that down. And so just seeing how that impacted almost a decade of my life, I still was hanging out with people, I had friends. I didn't put myself in a corner and never interact with people. But I look at, if I would have taken more risk to share my voice with people, not just as a singer, but just communicating in general as an introvert, which may be hard to believe to some people.
Right.
Being able to take more risk allows you the freedom to say, hey, you know what, maybe I did take a risk and I failed, but I can learn from it, and then I can move forward. And with those failures, those really help us become better and refine the practice of whatever we're doing, whether it's music, one bad performance. maybe it's just a little small thing that nobody else notices but you do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you move forward from it. So just taking bigger risks to put myself out there, because you only become greater through your failures.
One of the things that my dad always instilled in me is, he says, son, don't look back and say shoulda, woulda, coulda. Go do it. And it looks like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me the same thing. Well, how can you do all this, or why do you do all this? Why don't you just get a regular job? And the truth is, I don't feel like I'm living my best life if I'm not chasing the dreams and things that are in my gut. I just feel that it's a calling in life to go after big dreams. And whether I hit a big stage or not, you know, friends keep reminding me, hey, you're doing it. You know, you're singing country music and you're racing cars and you're changing lives in the process. So it's become really meaningful to me.
Where can people get your book?
You can find the book on Amazon.com. Search Tyler Williams, I Have a Voice. And the music is on iTunes. It's the Believe Again EP. You can also stream it on Spotify if you're on Spotify. So check it out.
We will, and I have a lot of people that watch our show all over the country, and these shows are archived and they're YouTubed, and the people who missed it tonight will get to see it. All they got to do is click on it and look at it. And Tyler, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us tonight. And it's always great to have a great guest like you. And this is the first time we did a Skype thing like this, so it's usually they come down or call up. So, but I thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Wishing you continued success. Tyler Williams, motivational speaker, race car driver, country music performer, and author of the book I Have a Voice, which you can find at Amazon.com. Thanks, Tyler.
Inravio.